Hello Bronies and Pegasisters, this is Blue Moon today, and I'm going to be reading another fanfiction. Well, this is what I do on this channel, and it's called Skittles. I know Skittles, probably a couple of you have already probably read this, and I think it's taking the mickey out of cupcakes. Ugh, yeah, and anyway, so I hope you guys and girls enjoy. You know, as I said in the last previous video, grab some popcorn, blah blah blah, and I'm gonna get reading this, so run intro. You invented a new candy. Twilight was sceptical of her pink friend's claim. Sure, the overly energetic pony could bake, but she was never seemed like the one to try something wholly new. Using hot sauce to frost her cupcakes, making muffins with marshmallows? Yes, those made sense, but supposedly coming up from an entirely new type of candy in a bakery? That seemed a little out of the blue, even for Pinky. Yeah, I call them rainbow bits. Here, try some. Smiling widely, the pink pony pushed a bowl across the counter towards her purple friend. It was filled with small, multicoloured pellets that shook slightly as the container moved. Twilight eyed the bowl skeptically, cautiously sniffing its contents. They smelled like air? Oh no, silly, giggled Pinkie Pie. You don't smell them, you eat them. And as an example, she leaned over the counter and scooped up a mouthful of unfamiliar candy. She let out a satisfied as she chomped down happily on the small spears. Twilight, assured that her friend's concoction was at least somewhat edible, slowly bent her head towards the bowl and tentatively scooped a few rainbow bits into her mouth with her tongue. She chewed slowly. The candies were hard-shelled, but extremely chewy on the inside. They tasted sweet, sweeter than anything she had ever eaten. But it was more than just sugar. They tasted like all the best flavours of every fruit she had ever eaten. Like fresh apples and peaches and plums and grapes and bananas, all mixed together in her mouth, yet still retaining their unique flavours. Oh, haha, this is delicious, the unicorn exclaimed, immediately plunging her head back into the bowl. She inhaled the remainder of its contents and then sat chewing at the counter for a good minute, her cheeks puffing outwards like a chipmunk's. Finally she finished the sweets and then caught her breath as she prepared to ask Pinky another question. So how do you manage to make these? I don't know much about cooking, but I know that baking and candy making are completely different ball games. Oh, Twilight, don't be ridiculous. We didn't have enough room to play ball in the kitchen. The pony laughed. Besides, it's too messy after all we did today. It took me 69 batches to get this flavour right. It's a good thing Rainbow Dash stuck around as long as she did, otherwise it might have taken forever. She threw her hooves into the air for emphasis as she spoke the last word, accidentally sending a plate of croissants flying across the room. Oopsie daisy! She darted to the falling plate, managing to catch it perfectly on one hoof. She then tossed it carelessly back onto the counter, when it landed with a violent thunk and swirled around for a few tense moments before settling down. It was due solely to sheer luck that none of the pastries fell off. Ta-da! Pinkie Pie said with a satisfied grin on her face. Anyway, Twilight resumed, choosing to ignore her friend's klutziness. You said that Rainbow Dash helped make these. Really? I thought she hated cooking and not flying every 2 minutes. Oh no, she didn't cook. I just needed to make sure the taste was right. The pink pony hopped back behind the counter, pulling another bowl of rainbow bits from under the counter and setting them in between her and Twilight. You used her as a taste tester? Now the unicorn was really confused. This makes even less sense. You've never needed one before. Besides, you're the one who created the recipe. Why do you need someone else to taste it for you? Heck, how did Rainbow get involved in this process in the first place? Why not? Oh, Twilight, the pink pony giggled, waving off the barrage of questions with her hoof. It's a very long story. Just let Auntie Pinkie Pie start from the beginning and all your questions will be asked. Pinky, we're the same... So there I was, just walking down the street. It was a late morning in Ponyville, and the town was bursting with activity. Today was Saturday, and the main square was filled with fillies and colts of all colours, each at stands selling and buying an endless variety of products and produce. Though in the middle of it all, totally oblivious to her surroundings, hopped Pinkie Pie, who hummed happily to herself and occasionally burst into song. Do-wah-dee-dee-dee-dee-dum-dee-dee-doo. She giggled as a few ponies glanced at her, ignoring their curious gazes. She continued to sing to herself. And shuffle in a hoo, sing a do-wah-doo-wah. She halted suddenly as a blur of colour swept overhead, its velocity sending a powerful gush of wind through the market. The figure had then darted upward, twirling through the air and shedding velocity until it reached the apex of its climb. Pinkie Pie hopped up and down in excitement. "Woohoo! Way to go, Rainbow Dash!" she cheered. The Pegasus descended, letting gravity propel her back towards the ground. She adjusted her trajectory, aiming for the library, and began furiously flapping her wings to further increase her speed. As soon as she passed the library's canopy, she turned, circling at once while still descending, pulling up just before she hit the ground, then recircling the giant tree as she turned to the sky. Unfortunately, as she passed the library's upper deck, her wing caught a branch, causing her to lose control of her flight and go tumbling to the ground. Rainbow Dash careered toward the marketplace, her limbs failing every which way. Although she managed to regain control at the last moment, she was unable to change direction in time and crashed headfirst into a vendor's wagon. The crowd, which had been watching the show intently, gasped as debris flew everywhere. "Oh no!" Pinkie Pie rushed over to her friend, who lay sprawled on the ground, dazed. "Are you okay?" Around them a murmur had arisen in the crowd. What's going on? What happened?" A green stallion with a grey mane pushed his way through the crowd, halting suddenly when he saw the wreckage, his face twisted into a look of horror. "Oh, sweet Celestia, my cabbages, what have you done?" He frantically stepped through the rubble, trying desperately to salvage any remains of his wares. He shortly got up and began sobbing into his hooves. Sorry," Rainbow Dash still struggled to see straight, stood shakily as she apologized. She turned to her pink friend, more frustrated than regretful. "I was so sure it would work this time." She pawed at the ground. "Wait, how do you paw with hooves? How do you paw at the ground with hooves?" Anyway, she pawed at the ground with her hoof as she attempted to quell her dissatisfaction. Pinkie Pie, who remained the only pony still smiling, opened her mouth to reassure the Pegasus, but before she could speak, another voice erupted from the crowd. "Rainbow Dash!" The crowd parted and a brown pony stepped out. It was the mare. "What if I told you about stunt flying that close to town on market days? You could have seriously hurt some pony." The crowd flew silent as the mare approached the Pegasus. "I said I was sorry," Rainbow Dash retorted. "Besides, it's not my fault, and if it hadn't been for that tree branch, I could have totally pulled off another sonic rainboom. Are you insane?" The mare was now directly in front of the Azure Devil, leaning in so close that their faces were almost touching. She spoke quietly yet fiercely. "Do you have any idea what might happen if that much energy was released so close to the town? For all we know, you could have leveled half the city." She could barely contain her fury at the blue Pegasus. It took all her self-control not to scream outright. "Sorry," Rainbow fell back on her haunches, hanging her head in embarrassment and shame, realizing that almost the entire town was watching her. It won't happen again." "It better not," the mare huffed. "Now, I do believe you owe somebody a new cabbage stand." She pointed to the still sobbing stallion with a hoof before walking off again, sighing angrily and muttering to herself. The crowd turned back to stare at Rainbow Dash, who sat silently in the middle of the road, unsure of what to do next. "Well, this isn't good, very good." Pinkie, still smiling, saw that a friend was at a loss and decided to try and better the situation. "Hey, I know, how about a party to cheer everyone pony up?" She bounced upwards as she said this, barely able to contain her excitement at the prospect of a party. The crowd did not share her enthusiasm, however, and instead responded with a collective muttering of no thank yous. Pinkie Pie was not smiling anymore. As the crowd dispersed, she silently helped Rainbow Dash gather up any remaining cabbages, and together they piled them next to the green and grey pony. Finally, the Pegasus' head still hung in defeat. Timidly offered to pay for the damage she had caused, but did not have enough to cover all of it. Pinkie Pie lent her some bits in an attempt to cheer her friend up, walked her to Sugar Cube Corner for some comfort food. The bakery was deserted, and Rainbow Dash sat alone at the table while Pinkie Pie prepared some food. The pony gathered some pastries onto the dish and then poured 2 glasses of milk, humming as she did so. She sat with the plate in the middle of the table and then returned quickly with drinks. She ate happily at first, taking a big bite out of a tart and a huge gulp of milk. However, she stopped her meal as soon as she noticed that her friend was not touching her food. Rainbow sat, head hung in, staring blankly at the brown tabletop. "Are you okay, Dashy?" Pinkie leaned closer to the Pegasus, extending a comforting hoof across the table. "Don't let those grumpy wumpies get to you. You were amazing till that tree got in your way." The blue pony looked up at her friend, trying to force a smile. "Thanks, Pinkie, but the mare's right. I shouldn't have been practicing somewhere like that above the town. Also, I actually did hurt my side. I don't think I'll be able to do any more flying today. I was this close." Well, Pinkie tried to think of a better conversation topic, or at least better perspective on the current one. "Why don't you tell me what you were trying to do? You said it involved a sonic rainbow." She grinned, eager to hear what a new stunt her friend had concocted. "Oh yeah," the Pegasus lifted her head from the table, her smile genuine this time. "So I was thinking, I've only ever pulled a sonic rainbow off when I was going down. which means gravity has always been helping me. So if I did it upwards, the gravity would be working against me, which means I'd need to work even harder, and it'd be even more awesome if I pulled it off going upwards. She grinned smugly, but quickly returned to a more mellow expression. But I didn't pull it off. Don't worry, I'm sure you'll do it next time. Pinkie Pie took another huge bite out of her meal, swallowing it whole. She gagged slightly, causing Rainbow Dash to giggle and take an interest in her own meal. Thanks, Pinkie. I hope you're right. She took a small bite from a cupcake, her mood very much improved by the reassurance, and ate happily, not talking but making plenty of noise. When they finished, and Pinkie had lit the plate clean, Rainbow Dash had decided that she had really done with flying for today, and offered to help her friend out in the kitchen. The pony was more of happy to have company. It'd be like a baking party, she pranced around in excitement. Woohoo! Rainbow Dash chuckled softly at her friend's behaviour. Oh, Pinkie Pie, you are so random. And I'm gonna end that off and do this as a 2 parts. See you later.